This is the members conference. It's not to force feed anyone anything. If you don't like the format, be sure and let us know that you don't like the format. And on the flip side, if there are things you really like, let us know that as well. So that's, having the conference is one thing, but getting feedback from the membership is key to making the conference relevant for everyone, and making sure that it's the value that you really want in a conference, and that we address the needs of the membership.
You may know the American Railway Engineering and Maintenance of Way Association, or AREMA, as the, quote, keepers of the manuals. You may know them as the, quote, people behind the largest annual railroad conference in North America. Heck, you may not know about AREMA at all. This podcast is designed, no pun intended, to change your view of who AREMA is and how AREMA has changed the trajectory of many railway careers over its 100-plus year history. Welcome to Platform Chats with your host, Walt Blesser, where he takes a moment to discuss the impacts AREMA has had on the very people who are proud to be called members. Are you ready to roll with AREMA?
ARE Corporation is a proud supporter of AREMA and Platform Chats. If you are looking to take your railway structures career to the next level, or simply start it down the right track, please visit us at arecorp.com. Please see our brand new job postings on our careers page or on our LinkedIn page.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Platform Chats. I cannot believe it, but we are all the way to number 17 on the year. I think this is number 7 on the year, roughly. Doing our absolute best to get you guys content once a month. It has been relatively difficult this year. It seems like everything has gone back into full swing as it relates to works and vacations. And if anyone's been to an airport lately, it's pretty obvious that people are trying to get out and get back to quote unquote normal from the pre-pandemic or pandemic days. And that really is the theme of today's podcast, because AREMA is getting back to its quote unquote pre-pandemic days. And we are going to have our first in-person conference in 2 years. And if I had an applause button like it's a 1960s radio show, I would hit it right now, because I think people are excited to get back in person. I personally have been to, I've been to a couple committee meetings. I hit Committee 10 in June in the St. Louis area, and I hit Committee 7 in Chicago about a week ago. And it was so good to get back and see folks that you've worked with for so long, and just to get caught up. And I guess I wasn't the only one that got the COVID-19 extra pounds. I'm not going to name names on that one either. So, hey, hopefully everybody found that somewhat humorous. So today, to address the conference, we've got 2 guests today. I have Michael Freeman, who is actually acting as our current AREMA president. He is the director of structures design at Union Pacific Railroad. Mike's a great guy. I've known him for a very long time. He's got some fun facts. The guy's a Royals fan. So you guys can weep with him as they lose, or you can cheer with them when they win a World Series every 30 years. And I also have Joe Bamert from Norfolk Southern. And I don't know Joe as well as I do know Michael. And excited to get to know Joe. But Joe is the AREMA Conference Operating Committee chairman. So Joe is the guy behind the scenes on almost, well, it looks like, looking at his resume, he's been working with these annual conferences for over 20 years. And very excited to hear what he has to say about some of the inner workings of what goes into putting on such a massive conference for our organization. So with that, I don't want to take up any more airtime here. I'm going to let Joe give a brief introduction as to his background and how he became the manager of engineering track systems for Norfolk Southern Railway. Joe?
Walt, thank you for having me on the podcast. I appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to speak with you and your fellow listeners. As you stated, my name is Joe Bamert, and I am chairman of the AREMA Conference Operating Committee. Been a AREMA member since 2002 when I joined Maintenance Away, and one of the first things they asked me to do was join AREMA right away. A little history about myself. I grew up in the Charleston, South Carolina area, and as a child, always had a personal interest in the railroad. And, started with model trains and photography, and really wanted to get my foot in the door at some point. And I attended Clemson University with a civil engineering degree, and went to the co-op office and looked at opportunities locally. And Norfolk Southern had a mechanical department co-op opportunity there at Spartanburg, South Carolina, at their Hayne car shops. Me being civil, we worked through the some roadblocks, but was able to land the co-op there at Hayne car shop for 2 semesters. Unfortunately, the car shop got shut down in the mid-90s, and they transferred me and another co-op that were on different rotations to the Linwood RIP track in Linwood, North Carolina, where I finished off my co-op requirements. I did 2 more semesters there. So very successful co-op program when Norfolk Southern, get my foot in the door. One of the nice things about the co-op, my shop managers, they allowed me to shadow other departments. So when I was at Hayne Car Shop, I got to go high railing with the track department. When I was at Linwood, got to do a few cab rides with transportation. So I really got some great exposure from that opportunity in college. So I did graduate from Clemson in '97 with a civil engineering degree, and my emphasis was transportation. I kind of went a different direction in heavy highway construction right out of school. Life happens, and then I came back to the railroad in 2002 and interviewed, and they hired me pretty much right on the spot. Went into the management trainee program in Maintenance Away, and was out there for about 6 months in Knoxville, Tennessee, on the old Central Division, and then got contacted by Design and Construction in Atlanta about a position that had opened up. So I went into interview for that, and because I had some design experience right out of college there, and then I was with Design and Construction for most of my railroad career. Had a brief stint in Bridges and Structures. It was about 4 months, and then came back, and currently I'm in with some restructuring. I'm in the engineering technology group that falls under Maintenance Away, and the work I do is probably the most recognizable work I do for Norfolk Southern is produce track charts, among other things in my career.
Outstanding. And I think Mike and I both perked up when you said you spent 4 to 6 months in the Bridges and Structures group. So we appreciate the fact that you have such an excellent reputation of spending time with us. Mike, you want to follow that?
Sure. First of all, thanks again, Walt, for having me on this podcast. And I hope those that the hordes of folks out there listening to the podcast will enjoy what we have to say today. But going back to kind of how I got into railroad engineering, I'm pretty much solely a railroad bridge engineer. Is I graduated from college from Mississippi State University. They were the College World Series champions last year, and then our arch rival won it this past year. So anyway, that was the first national championship ever for Mississippi State in any sport. So that was pretty exciting, and being here in Omaha, I really enjoyed that. But anyway, I went to work for Majeski and Masters engineers, consulting engineers in New Orleans out of college. And I was very fortunate to work under my supervisor, Don Sorgenfrey, who's very well known in the railroad bridge field. Don was a plethora of information, and he shared it with us, taught us. So that kind of got me started into bridge engineering in general. And then Majeski & Masters was very involved with the Southern Pacific Transportation Company at the time. And we did a lot of railroad bridge engineering work, from inspections to rehab plans to responding to emergencies. That was probably one of the key factors in me actually coming to work for Union Pacific, is the experience that I had at Majeski & Masters in the emergency response area. I joined Union Pacific in November of 1997. I was the director of structures design at the time. And I've kind of rotated through all the different positions within the bridge department. I spent 2 years as the director of structures design. And then in 1999, I took a field position as the director of bridge maintenance on the northern region. And I worked in that position until 2008, and then came back into centralized engineering as the director of bridge standards and assessment, which basically meant I was in charge of all the bridge inspection activity for Union Pacific. I held that position in 2015, where I was asked to fill a need as the director of structures design again. And that's the position I currently hold. So that's kind of my railroad engineering background. Coming out of college, I had absolutely zero clue that I didn't know what AREMA was. And I've come a long way since that point. Just the fact of the matter of people that I've worked under, and my employers have both supported AREMA very wholeheartedly, and that's been a big plus for me getting to this point.
That's a great transition and an awesome introduction from both of you. And I just a couple notes I made is it's really cool to see both of you have stayed with the same organization for over 20 years. Joe, looks like you're celebrating your 20th anniversary this year at some point.
That's correct.
And Mike, you've been there for well over 25. It's just not something I feel like you see as much today, and it's cool to see you guys have such proud careers at one organization. The other interesting facts here, and maybe you guys didn't know this, but you both lived in South Carolina and Charleston at one point in your lives. I don't know if you knew that, Mike.
I did not. I did live in Charleston for a very brief period when my father was in the military, and he was stationed at Charleston, South Carolina.
Was that
Yep.
Navy or Air Force?
In the Air Force, yes.
Air Force, okay. That's how
Yeah.
my family landed in Charleston. My dad was Air Force.
Landed in Charleston. I see. No pun intended. That was good. And both of you both work for Class 1 railroads. Both work for major freight railroads in the country. That, just to point out, both those railroads do support AREMA activities. And both of you have had, I don't want to go through your entire histories here, but both of you have been very active with AREMA for well over 20 years. Now, I will say we've had a lot of podcasts to date talking about all the different functional groups, right, and all the different the committees, right, that maintain the chapter material. I think many people that are in maybe say the design world, when they think of AREMA, they do think of the MRE, and they think of each chapter having to do with a specific subject in design, maintenance, construction of the railway. That said, and I know, Mike, you came up through the structures group. That's how I met you. But on the conference operating committee, the COC, Joe, could you just tell me a little bit about where that falls in the organization Is it an actual outstanding committee? How do people get involved with that? That'd be something that I think our listeners would be interested to hear.
Yeah, so the Conference Operating Committee is a group of volunteers that volunteer their time during the annual conference. We kind of serve as an extension of the AREMA staff to make sure things run smoothly. Probably the most notable areas you will see us is at registration. We're a familiar face and very familiar with what's going on, and access control to the technical sessions and other special programs throughout the conference. As far as getting involved, we've had a wait list of people interested. We keep a roster of about 30. And depending on attrition and whatnot, we'll bring in new members. And typically it's about, the first conference is typically probationary, just to make sure this is a right fit for that individual and us. And during the conference, we're usually volunteering about 8 to 9 hours per person. And so we almost have 30 people that will be volunteering later this month in Denver. So you can imagine the number of hours that we backfill for the annual conference.
So you got about 30 folks, and it sounds like you somewhat act like a committee, in the sense I see you're a vice chair and a chairman of the committee, or of the COC. So are you involved in other AREMA, like what I would call a standard committee?
Yeah, so many of our members are active members in the technical committees.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is not considered one of the technical committees by no means. We don't have meetings throughout the year. We have one meeting right at the beginning of the conference, which is the one and only chance we can really get together. But yeah, we're just a group of volunteers to help the AREMA staff at the annual conference.
Okay, so you're really executing on what's being prepared throughout the year for the conference. And Mike, you play a huge role, I know, in the conference. For those of you that are going to Denver, you will see Mike all over the place, because he'll be on the stage and he'll have a lot to say. And maybe, Mike, you can talk a little bit about how I know you're excited to be coming to Denver in person in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, Walt, it's really a great thing for everyone to be able to get together face to face, not too close, but face to face, and really enjoy the conference the way we have in the past. We've been virtual the last 2 years, and both of those conferences have been huge successes from a virtual conference standpoint. But certainly we are all very much looking forward to getting back together in person to enjoy the conference the way we've known it in the past. This conference is going to be the same in many ways as our previous conferences, but there are going to be some changes that people will note as well. And I'm not going to go into each one of those. Some of the changes are going to be kind of on a trial basis, and we're going to see how people like them or don't like them. And of course, we always try to adjust the conference format based on the feedback we get at the end of the conference to make it what the membership really wants. That's the key. This is the members' conference. It's not to force feed anyone anything. If you don't like the format, be sure and let us know that you don't like the format. And on the flip side, if there are things you really like, let us know that as well. So that's, having the conference is one thing, but getting feedback from the membership is key to making the conference relevant for everyone, and making sure that it's the value that you really want in a conference, and that we address the needs of the membership.
That could not have been said better, Mike. I appreciate that. I mean, We live in a world now of Web 2.0, almost 3.0, where we can interact with just about anybody. And it used to be a one-way feed of information to you. Now you can get on there, and if you want to tell your local politician to shove it on Twitter, you can. It's pretty cool that we as an organization, which is it's a volunteer organization, right, are actually listening to what our members want. And everybody, I hope you're listening. You heard it here first. There's going to be some changes compared to the conferences you've been to in the past. Now, I think I know of one of them. I do know that the committee chairman's lunch might be a little different. Is that right, guys? Anybody? What are we going to say?
If you look at the schedule, there is not a chairman's luncheon this year. And
oh, boy.
Yeah, there is a joint committee breakfast on Sunday that all committee members, it's my understanding, are invited to. So that is probably the most significant change you will see.
Okay. Yeah, I know in many years past, I guess it would be when I became chairman even. Actually, it's been a long time. How long ago was it when you actually marched all the chairmen in and they went up front on a long table and they kind of looked out? Well, it was like the world's worst wedding buffet. Do you remember that?
Now, that would have been our last year in 2019, I believe.
Was it 19?
Yeah, okay. Minneapolis. Yeah, I believe that was the last time we did that.
Yeah, I think, look, we're an organization that's very old, right? We're probably over 100 years old at this point, and there's definitely things that have carried over from 100 years, and there's some things that need to be updated. So I'm excited to see what you guys have done. Mike, you're coming in as the president, which I think is a very honorable thing. It's kind of the capstone to your quote-unquote AREMA career. Maybe you could talk just briefly about how you became the president. How does a person become the president of AREMA? Because I think there are those out there right now that believe there is a room with smoke and scotch and leather-bound books where these decisions are made. And maybe that is where it was made, but this is your opportunity to debunk it.
Well, I actually served in several leadership roles, working up through the functional group level. I was the director of the Structures Functional Group from 2015 to 2017. And then Structures Functional Group Vice President from 17 to 20. And then the Senior Vice President of AREMA. It's really a 3-year obligation when you're selected to be Senior Vice President. And there are several criteria that have to be met. And the nominating committee searches through the members that meet those criteria, and that's when you get approached to possibly become president. Of course, that's the pinnacle, but there's a year before you're president and a year after you're president that you're obligated to serve as well. And there are specific job duties during those 2 shouldering years of being president. I wish I knew what all the magic behind the scenes is, but I know that I was approached by the nominating committee to start that process, and it's been quite a fulfilling period for me. And I do know that it's also very enlightening because I think at this point I know about half of what it takes to run AREMA. I've only been in this, I've been senior vice president for 1 year and president for almost another year. And there are still a lot of behind the scenes activities that the membership is absolutely totally blind to. And then the leadership is half blind to. It's a very complex organization, and to run an association of the size of AREMA and with the diverse interests, you've got people that are track oriented or bridge oriented. There's a lot of diversity within the organization. So to make sure all the members' needs are met, it's a very difficult task, and it's really amazing to see all the behind the scenes activity that goes on to make AREMA what it is.
Yeah, I'm not quite you. You're more of an Icarus. It sounds like you've flown pretty close to the sun here. It doesn't sound like you got burned, but you have seen even more than I have as far as what goes on behind the scenes. It does seem to me like the theme for both of you is getting involved and getting involved early and often, and putting into your organization whatever you put into it's what you're gonna get out of it. Because I know, Mike, I know you've presented at AREMA, probably 15 years ago, way before you were in any sort of a leadership position. And I'm sure, Joe, you're probably in the same boat. Is there anything either of you, I'll start with you, Joe, and then let Mike follow up here. But for the younger folks out there, when they start thinking about, man, and Mike's been involved for 25 years to get to be president, maybe you don't think about the years, you just think about getting involved and what the value of getting involved is. Because, I mean, looks like you, Joe, you've been very involved for 20 years.
Yeah, so my first annual conference was in 2003, and that was in Chicago. And that was eye-opening. It was very exciting to participate that first year. And then in 2006, I studied and got my PE license and ended up going to the next conference in 2007. And then I just saw the amount of PDHs I got, those professional development hours I got from attending a conference. And I felt like, okay, there's got to be a way for me to go every year. So our vice president back then was Tim Drake, and he was a large supporter of AREMA. And I petitioned with my supervisors and worked my way up to him to get approval to join the conference operating committee. At the time, Larry Etherton, who was with Norfolk Southern, was chairman of the conference operating committee, and with his help, I was able to join the committee, enabling me to go every year. And that was in 2008 in Salt Lake City. So ever since 2008, I've been able to go on an annual basis. And Steve Morrell, Norfolk Southern, retired. He was vice chairman of the conference operating committee. And when he retired, Larry recommended me to step in his place as vice chairman. And the AREMA headquarters staff and CEO approved that change. And then as vice chair, I was able to step into Larry Etherton's shoes when he formally retired. And I've been chairman ever since 2016 when we were in Orlando. So yeah, it's again, it was probably selfish on my part that I just wanted those PDHs, but also the variety of work I do at Norfolk Southern. Every technical session, those breakout sessions affect me one way or another. Even though I'm a civil engineer in transportation, the CNS stuff has an effect on me because I've been involved with crossing work and speed studies. So that may not be my specialty, but that's something I enjoy listening in on. And then involvement with a variety of projects through the years. Every area is, I like having that ability to pick and choose what I need for my professional development.
So it started out with just wanting to get some PDHs, and next thing you know, you're going every year, and the benefit of being exposed to everything going on in the industry is priceless, is how I wrap that up. Mike, would you say similar for you, or Did you come at it from a little different angle?
Well, yeah, it is. One thing that Joe mentioned about PDH is that's just one aspect of the value that AREMA wants to deliver to their membership. It's a fairly, many companies support their employees in maintaining their PE registrations, and PDHs are a requirement there. And it's a pretty good value for per PDH hour to attend our AREMA events. Not only AREMA events, but also AREMA committee meetings. And there are several different venues where AREMA members can pick up those PDH hours. One of the things that AREMA is going to do in this conference, and they've been doing this for the past several in-person conferences, is concentrating on the younger members of the organization. There's special programs for what we call the next generation, to let young engineers know what the future is going to be like, or what it's been like for people who have experience. The young engineers, the student program that's available. So those are just a few venues that will be available to folks at this conference for young engineers and young professionals to learn about the industry. And it's really a service that AREMA provides to those young engineers. So, AREMA offers a lot of different advantages to people. Joe mentioned exposure to different fields. You can never be too rounded if you're in the railroad industry. I call myself a railroad bridge engineer, but over time, by accident, I've picked up a lot of information on the track side and signal side that is very valuable in everything that I do.
Yeah, it's a great place to get exposed to a lot of things going on in the industry. And that leads me to one of the last topics I wanted to talk a little bit about. At the conference, there's still going to be an expo, right? It's not going to be as large as maybe the Railway Interchange Expo. And to me, that's where you kind of see, or in the past, you used to see a lot of the heavy equipment and stuff that's just gigantic coming into the floor. But yeah, that was some neat eye candy. But we're going to have a lot of vendors there, right, guys? I mean, it's going to be in the conference center down there. I'm in Denver now, so it's just downtown here. And I don't know if I don't want to put anybody on the spot here, but do we know how many vendors we're going to have, roughly?
I don't know the exact number.
Okay, fair enough.
But I do know that we have about 1,500 attendees signed up to attend the conference. So it's going to be a very good, well-attended event. And I would encourage anybody who's on the fence to make that decision to sign up and come to Denver at the end of August and be with us to celebrate.
And to that point, yeah, the expo will be located in the Colorado Convention Center. And what's nice about that convention center is that that expo hall has plenty of elbow room. Some of these former venues, the AREMA Expo has outgrown some of these floor plans. And I think this expo will be a success this year. The fact that we have had it in 2+ years, number one, and the fact that the venue can support these vendors and suppliers that do show up at the expo.
Yeah, I know for a fact that when, like you mentioned, going to Chicago in 2003, I think that was probably at the Palmer House Hilton. Does that sound right?
Palmer House.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember that place. You went down to the basement to go to the expo hall, and you'd walk into a column every 6 feet if you weren't careful. And I know by experience, the conference center and the floor plan we're using downtown in Denver is actually the host of the Great American Beer Festival. And let's just say this, there is plenty of elbow room. for people to get in there and do that. So if we can have the GABF there, for sure, AREMA will be just fine in that space. All right, well, Mike, I'm going to let you close it out. I mean, this is at the conference, you do hand over the gavel, so to speak, right, to the next president. Is that correct?
That is correct. I'll be handing the gavel over to Trent Hudak. Trent worked for Burlington Northern, and he's been serving as senior vice president this year and has done a tremendous job spearheading a couple of key initiatives to make AREMA better. And I look forward to all that Trent's going to bring to the table next year. He'll do a fine job, and I wish him all the luck in the world.
And you've enjoyed your time, right? So you basically were the president, was it September of 21? Does that sound right?
Yeah, I took over during the last virtual conference. Hopefully it'll be the last one we'll ever have. But you never know. I think AREMA really showed its flexibility and actually, again, catered to the needs of the membership and provided a great venue to share information, which is so important. People were able to pick up their PDH hours. It's not like sitting down across the table from someone that you know, but it was the next best thing, and it was a very successful way to do things. But we're certainly very excited to be back in person this year in Denver, and I think it'll be a great conference. And if you come, you'll be glad you did.
Excellent, guys. On behalf of the AREMA membership, Mike, I'd like to thank you for your service as president this year. And really, that's just 1 year that represents many, many, many years of hours that you have spent contributing to AREMA, not only the structures functional group. I know you were the chairman of Committee 8, I believe, and concrete and structures, and everything you've done for the organization. We really appreciate it. And Joe, back at you too. Thank you for everything you've done for putting together these conferences and helping the AREMA staff execute these massive conferences. And while a lot of those people are there just having a good time, talking to their peers, you guys are working, and we notice that. We appreciate it. If you see, I call you guys the blue shirts, but if you see any of the blue shirts at the conference, if you see Joe, say hi, tell him you heard him on the podcast. It'd be appreciated. So, gentlemen, I will see you in about 3 weeks in Denver. Thank you.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks for having us.
You bet.
Thank you for rolling with AREMA on today's episode of Platform Chats. For further information about AREMA, please visit arema.org or contact us at info@arema.org.